Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today's guest is Pamela Cass, co-host of the Reignite Resilience podcast and co-author of The Quiet Gift, a powerful story about self-worth, healing, and finding your voice after feeling unseen. Pamela's journey has been shaped by dyslexia, yes, executive burnout, cancer, and the courage to start over. After stepping away from a successful corporate career, she rebuilt her life with a new mission, helping people rediscover their value, lead authentically, and create success that doesn't come at the expense of their well-being. Today, she works as a professional coach, speaker, instructor, entrepreneur, and realtor, helping others transform adversity into growth and purpose. Pamela, welcome to Conversations with Sekani. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here.
All right. So yes, Pamela, can you take us back to, your childhood, basically? So what was life like growing up, and how did, dyslexia shape your entire experience?
Yeah. So I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I was 7,
Mm,
and that was in the 70s. And they knew a lot about dyslexia, but if you were in a small rural town, the schools didn't know how to handle kids that learned differently. And so what that meant was when I went back to school after the diagnosis, instead of them working with me, they would pull me out of the classroom when everybody else was reading or doing any sort of phonics or spelling. And so at the age of 7, we should be making our friends and we should be playing and learning with our peers. And I wasn't. I was being pulled out of the classroom and put with a teacher's assistant. And all I remember doing, and I'm sure there were other things, I remember baking cookies at the school, and that was it. And so then they would let me come back into the classroom, and my feeling was that these kids were looking at me like, why didn't she have to do the work that we were doing? And so I very much wanted to shrink and become invisible because I didn't want to be pointed out as being different. And that just led to this, unfortunately, this years and years of feeling invisible and sometimes wanting to be invisible, not be seen, because I didn't believe that I was worthy of being in the same places with these other kids that didn't have dyslexia. And that led to me being an overworker. So I felt like any job that I got into, I needed to prove myself. Because if I didn't prove myself, they would figure out that, oh my gosh, she has dyslexia, she can't be here, she's not good enough. And so I was that person in the room that would stay later, work harder, do more, because I was just trying to prove myself. And unfortunately, in doing that, that led to all of the things that ended up happening in my life.
Oh, first of all, I would say thank you for sharing your story with us, right? And
Yeah.
they always say like your childhood is like the formative years of your life, right?
Mhm.
Whatever happens then almost goes into your old age, right? So I feel like nobody had to go through that, right? Because it could affect one's confidence. I believe it affected your confidence at some point.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, so now I want us to talk about how you were able to navigate it, or what were the things you wish you knew when you were much more younger?
Oh my gosh. Oh, what do I wish I knew when I was younger? You know what? I don't know that I wish I knew anything different because I really do believe that all of those struggles that I went through prepared me for those next things that I went through in my life. And so
Mhm.
I know that sometimes we're like, gosh, I wish my life had been easier. I wish I didn't have dyslexia. But at the end of the day, what I've learned is that dyslexia actually was very much a gift. And that's the title of the book, The Quiet Gift, because people with dyslexia, they actually have very high IQs. Their brain just learns differently. and we tend to be extremely empathetic, so we're able to connect with people easier, which has showed up in my real estate career. It's shown up when I'm coaching people. I'm able to connect with people very easily and in a deep, meaningful way. It also, dyslexia allows you to think outside the box. So most people that don't have any sort of neurodivergence, any dyslexia or autism, whatever, they very much follow the way everything's done and they're very much linear. People with dyslexia can see opportunities, they can see different ways of solving problems that other people can't. And so it ended up that all of those challenges that I faced actually created the person who I've become today. And so I would say I don't know that I wish I knew anything different. I'm just grateful that I've had this opportunity throughout my life to just build on all of those adversities that I had to get me to where I'm at today. And I know I'm not done having adversities because, if you're living, you're just going to have more stuff thrown at you. But I believe that everything that happened before has prepared me for the next thing that happens.
Exactly. Wow. I think that's like a very beautiful way to, believe, right? Every experiences that are happening to somebody now or that have happened before, one should see it as like a lesson, right?
Yeah.
As a guide to, the future, basically, because they would come in handy, those experiences. And like you
Mhm.
said, the quiet gifts, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to talk about, building a career, right?
Yeah.
And facing burnout, basically. So what initially attracted you to the corporate world and what did success mean to you at that time?
So to me, success was, well, my worth, like as a human, was tied to my success, my titles, my income, the status, the recognition. So, because of dyslexia, when I was very much invisible, where I felt seen was when I would have these accolades. I would um, be promoted quickly in a job. I would get these titles. I'd get these high-paying jobs, and all of a sudden, people were noticing me and they were seeing me. And so then I was like, oh my gosh, well, I got to keep doing this. I need to keep hustling because that's my worth. And if I don't have that, then what worth am I? I'm not worthy. And so the journey that I learned over my career was that belief that my worth was tied to my title, my income. That worth was keeping me in a very dangerous place. It was keeping me in this space where I was constantly overworking, which led to the burnout. And so, and we all have these beliefs. Every one of us has beliefs that have been formed since the moment we were born. And oftentimes we don't recognize that those beliefs are creating patterns in our life. And so these patterns will continue to show up. And so when I walked away from that six-figure career, I was a single mom. I had no idea how I was going to pay my bills or have insurance or do any of that. But I also knew that if I walked away from this job because of my beliefs, I was going to just do the same thing in the next job. And then I was going to do the same, and it was just going to keep showing up as this pattern. And so I had to do a serious pattern interrupt and completely rewire my brain. And that's the beautiful thing about our brain is we can rewire it through neuroplasticity. We can create new pathways, but it's hard. It's just like if I decide today I want to be a runner and I'm going to run a marathon in a year, there's hard work that I have to do to be able to become a runner. And so it's the same way with our beliefs. It takes a lot of hard work to rewire those beliefs. And so what I needed to do was figure out what is that new belief I want to have about success. And for me, the new belief was I want to have connection. I want to be present. I want to inspire others and I want to have joy. I don't want to do anything in my life that doesn't bring me joy. Being on the podcast and interviewing people all over the world that have gone through incredible adversities, that brings me joy. Writing the book, that brought me joy. Coaching my clients, that brings me joy. Speaking and teaching in front of people, that brings me joy. And so if something that comes to my world and somebody asks me to do something, if it doesn't bring me joy, The answer is just a hard no, no, because I know I will just get into that same old pattern again because our brain likes those patterns. It's safe because we know it. And it's the easiest path, and our brain wants the easiest path. Doing new pathway, that's hard. And our brain doesn't like hard because we try to conserve energy. And so, yeah, so it was the belief systems that had to completely shift in order for me to be able to walk away and find success again. But success, the new success that I had defined in my life.
Okay, so first of all, thank you, Pamela. And what I think the first step was realization,
Yeah.
right? Because not many people, I don't think some people realize that there are even patterns in their lives, right? But you were able to realize, was there any specific event that, made you realize that you don't think you want to, keep on going this way?
hmm
Because, like you said, it led to burnout. But was there
hmm
any specific occurrence that made you realize that there's a particular pattern and you need to break it?
Yeah. There were two patterns. So the first one happened the morning that I was at my office and my phone rang and I got the call from my doctor that I was diagnosed with
Mhm.
cancer. And it was a month after my divorce was final. And so here I was, I went through a 2 year horrible divorce battle with my ex. And then a month later, I'm diagnosed with cancer. And in that moment, it was this huge wake up call for me like, wow, have I been present in my life? Have I been present with my kids, with my clients, with my friends, my family? And the answer was no, because I was so working because that's what gave me the worth. And so that was the first wake up call. And so I went through, year of treatment, got back, and guess what I did? I went back to the same old working, working. And so then the second thing that happened was I was at a dentist appointment just to get my teeth cleaned. And they take your blood pressure at the dentist. And she took the blood pressure and the number was 158 over 104. And if you don't know that's stage two hypertension, and if you stay in that zone for too long, that's heart disease, heart attacks, strokes, and in worst case scenarios, death. And so it was this huge wake up call for me that, oh my gosh, I survived cancer and I'm right back in the same place. I'm doing these patterns that are causing me to not take care of myself. And so that was the wake up call. So that was that pattern that it showed up a second time. And I was like, oh my gosh, if I keep doing this, I'm not going to be here to enjoy this success that I'm trying to build. And so, yes, the pattern showed up a few times.
All right. So, yes, thank you, Pamela, for sharing that one with us, actually. I don't know if I could ask this. How is your health now, basically?
My health, I'm cancer free and my blood pressure
Mm,
I am healthy. But what has shifted is that my all focus is not just on the work, it's on taking
mm,
care of myself. So when I look at my calendar for the week, my workouts and my time for restoring my health, those are on my calendar before anything else. And I will
mm,
never shift those or take those off my calendar for anything, unless it is like an emergency. But otherwise, those come first because I know that if I don't take care of myself, if I don't love myself first, I'm not going to be able to show up for my kids, my clients, my friends in a meaningful way. And ultimately, that's what brings me the joy is being able to show up. But I can't show up as my full true self if I'm not taking care of myself. And I think we
mm,
forget that. We forget about taking care of ourselves first because a lot of us are told, well, that's selfish if you're just doing the stuff for yourself. And it's not selfish. It's actually a huge gift because then you can show up for other people fully, authentically as who you're meant to be.
exactly. Wow, that's it right there, right? People would think, it's being selfish, but no, it isn't actually. Because if I love myself, I could give you the right amount of love too. I can
Yes.
only give you love when I have love for myself. I can't give you love if I don't love myself, right? So it starts with us, basically. It needs to
Yes.
start with us, honestly. So yes,
Yes.
thank you, Pamela. And
Yeah.
another thing I want us to talk on now is what you're doing now. right?
Yes.
So tell us about the work you do today as like a coach, speaker, instructor, and entrepreneur.
Yes. So I'm living my dream job right now because I get to create my schedule and I get to help other people go through kind of what I've gone through and help them recognize some of those beliefs that are keeping them stuck. And that just lights me up. You know, if you are
Mm,
trying to figure out what it is you want to do in your life, figure out the things that when you're done doing them, you've got this like renewed energy. Like you feel like, oh my gosh, I could run through a wall. This was fantastic. Those are when you know what your purpose is. And so, yeah, I am coaching business owners to help them kind of close the gap from what their intentions are and then actually executing and creating those or reaching those goals that they're setting for themselves. But oftentimes it starts with really identifying, is that really the goal they want? Or is this the goal
mm,
that they've been told they need to achieve? And so sometimes the work at the beginning is the messy work, kind of figuring out what their beliefs are and what truly does fill their cup. And so that's on that piece of it. The speaking and coaching, as somebody with dyslexia and somebody who's also an introvert, the thought, if I thought of as a child speaking in front of groups of people, I would have absolutely said there's no way I would ever
mm,
do that. And what I've learned over the years is that I love doing it. And because I'm a big believer that also all of these lessons that happen in our lives, they're not meant to keep to ourselves because there's somebody out there that is going through something that needs to hear what you have to say. And so I'm on this mission to touch as many people as possible in a way that helps them either recognize those beliefs or make a change in their lives or reach out for help or whatever it is that they need to do to live the best life that they can possibly live. Because I think a lot of us are just kind of, just going about the motions of, get up, do the same thing every day, rinse, repeat every day, but they don't have any joy in their life. And
mm.
if you don't have joy in your life, then what's the purpose?
That's the point.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. What's the point? I mean, whatever you're doing should be geared towards joy, right? Towards love, towards what you actually want. Because
yeah,
that way you get to enjoy life more. You get to be so you get to be happy, right? And joyful. So that's
yeah,
the whole point of everything, honestly. So yes, I also
absolutely.
want us to right. I want us to talk about the quiet gifts. But before I
Mm,
do, let's touch a little bit about entrepreneurship because you mentioned it earlier. Right. So, first
yeah.
of all, what do you think are like some common struggles you see among professionals and entrepreneurs today?
Yeah. So entrepreneurship is it's tough. It is very tough because there's nobody that says you got to clock in at this
Mm,
time every day and here are the things that you have to do and then you're just going to be successful. And so
mm,
oftentimes what happens is people will go from working a regular job, a W-2 job where they're paying taxes and they're doing what their boss tells them to do and they've got metrics and all this. But when you're an entrepreneur, you got nothing. So you are
mm,
out there on your own. So it's very easy to get up and say, well, I don't know what to do today. So I think I'm just gonna, mess around or watch TikTok or jump on Netflix. And so you've got to have a definite vision for what it is that you want to do and achieve. And I am a huge proponent in having a coach to help you because I've got a coach. I've always had a
mm,
coach. And those are the people that can see what you're missing because sometimes we get those blinders on and our beliefs kind of keep us stuck. So with entrepreneurship, it's a clear vision for what you want. And then it's a clear timeline for when you want to have it by. And then going backwards, figuring out what are the small things that I need to do every day to get me to that place where I want to be. And when you're an entrepreneur, you got to be okay with failure because you're going to fail and you just got to get up and do it again. And that's what entrepreneurs do. And that's like a common theme between those entrepreneurs. They'll try something, oh, didn't work, pivot, then I'm going to try something else. And eventually something's going to stick. And then they're going to get that momentum. And all of a sudden they're going to, oh, this is it. I'm in the groove now. But it's not easy because there's nobody there telling you, all right, get up. It's time to work. It's time to make the phone
Mm,
calls. And it's unless you're super disciplined and driven, it's hard to just keep up on it because yeah, nobody's there telling you what to do because you're your own boss. So it's tough.
yeah.
So
Right. Yes. I love that you were very realistic about it, right? I mean,
yeah,
some
I'm
people would
not
have said,
gonna
"Oh,
Yeah, I'm not going to
yeah,
sugarcoat it because it is, yeah, it's not, and it's not for everybody, and that's okay.
mm,
You know, there are not everybody's wired to be an entrepreneur, and that is okay because we need those people too in the world.
yeah,
And so, yeah, so I think give yourself permission that it's okay if you're not an entrepreneur because there are plenty of other things that you can be doing that are make a difference and bring you joy, and that
mm.
has nothing to do with owning your own business.
Right. Well, so like you said, it's not easy, but it's possible, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's possible to be successful, to be a successful entrepreneur, but it just takes a whole lot of discipline and hard work. And you said get a coach, right? Get
Yes.
a coach to notice those blind spots. And
Yeah.
then thirdly, um, you mentioned, I'm trying to remember, there was something you mentioned, right? Get a coach and I'll remember eventually.
Okay. Okay.
Right. I will. But yeah, before we do, let's talk about the quiet gift, right? So tell us about your book and what inspired you to write it.
So it's funny. So I've got the podcast, and I my podcast is co-hosted by a dear friend, Natalie Davis, and we I was at a conference, and what I noticed with all the speakers is they had books, and I was like, oh, so I called her. And I said we should probably do a book, and she goes, oh yeah, let's do that. And I'm like, okay, and we had no idea what the heck we were doing, and so because our podcast is about adversity and resilience. I'm like, well, let's just do a resilience workbook or something. We'll give people like, here's the toolkits to being resilient. And we started writing it. We got about 60 pages done, and then I just like stalled. There was just something that it wasn't bringing me joy. And so, and again, if something doesn't bring me joy, then I need to stop doing it. And so I had got a package in the mail from one of my coaching clients, a dear friend, and who I've coached for years. And it was a book, and the book was called The Energy Bus. And The Energy Bus is just a tiny little book. I can't remember the author. I need Gordon, I think is his last name. And he has a series of books, and the books are all written like a story, but they've got a meaning behind them. And so I read the book, and then I called Natalie and I said, okay, what do you say if we scrap what we've done so far and we take a shot at writing a series of books and write them as like a story? And each book can have some message of resilience or story of resilience. And she goes, well, I don't know how to do that. I'm like, well, I don't know how to do it either. So let's maybe we figure it out. And so she was she was heading out of the country for 3 weeks, and I was like, well, let me take a stab at it because this was over the holidays where it slows down for us. So I was like, I've got the time. Let me just take a stab at it. And I wanted it to not just be like me regurgitating my story. I wanted there to be some fable-ish note to it, but it very much my story, but it's also got some other things in it. There's a character in there named Sam who's not a real person. And so it could be whoever to you. It could be God, it could be your spirit guides, it could be your inner voice, it could be a wise uncle or something. And so this character shows up throughout the book whenever the main character is having some sort of a challenge. And at the very beginning of the book, he gifts her a journal, a red journal. And this journal disappears throughout the story and then appears to her when the main character, when she's having some sort of a challenge. And it always has a prompt in it for her to answer. And so throughout the book, every chapter has a prompt and then her writing or answering that question. And so it was fun to write. And it was so interesting because as I wrote it, memories started coming back. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. And so then I would add it. And then I would finish the book, and then I was like, oh, wait, I forgot about this entire part. And so then I would add a chapter in the middle. And I was like, and so it was really a fun way to understand the journey that I was on to reflect on actually the very beautiful childhood I had. I was not abused. I always had a roof over my head. We got to go on vacations. I had family that loved me. And so it was actually this book of healing and being very authentic in sharing the challenges that I went through. And when I published it, I instantly got, oh my gosh, now everybody's going to know. And so
Mm.
that was very scary for me. And what was even more scary, and it was kind of a fun story, is I put it on Facebook to let people know that, hey, just launched this book. It's my story. And a girl that I went to high school with messaged me on Facebook, and she was one of the popular girls. And I was not a popular girl in high school. I was the shy, awkward girl. And this was like somebody I looked up to, I idolized. She was on the soccer team. She sang. I mean, she was just like, did everything. Everybody loved her. And she goes, hey, I saw you wrote a book. I'd love to talk to you about it. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so we jumped on a call, and she does voiceovers. And so she
Mm.
asked about creating this as an Audible book. And I'm like, I absolutely want to, because with dyslexia, reading books are challenging for people with dyslexia. It takes us longer to read them, longer to retain the information. And she goes, well, let me walk you through and I can, kind of show you how to do it yourself if you want to do it. And she started talking about all of the things that were like required to do it. And I looked at her and said, would you do it? I don't want to do it. And so she ended up doing it. And so the Audible version of it launched in January. And as she was reading it, she would send me little snippets to see, how did you like this? Do you want me to change anything? And then I got the final draft to approve. And it was so fun to listen to somebody that I went to high school with, so a familiar voice, read my story. And it was also incredibly vulnerable because now this person that I idolized read my book and knows my story. And so there was like this double-sided thing, but I was like, you know what? Somebody out there needs to hear what I have to say, and somebody will resonate. And I've had a lot of people reach out and say that book resonated with me. I saw myself in Emily's shoes, and so that was really fun. So it was beautiful. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Wow, the quiet gift. Okay, so I would say you're doing amazing, and I would highly recommend the book. I mean, to anyone out there. And like you said, I believe it will resonate with, a lot of people.
Yeah.
Right. So yes, and finally, Pamela, I just want you to talk to someone out there, right? Specifically younger adults who are trying to, navigate life. Right. So would you have any advice for the younglings, basically?
Yes. I think the biggest advice I would say is that you are enough, just the way you are. And people deserve to know the authentic you, not the you that is performing, that is in your head, that is wanting to be liked by other people. People will resonate with you if it's truly your authentic self, because you are worthy and you deserve to be here. And there is something that you were placed on this planet to do. And so figure out what that thing is that brings you joy, because that will make a difference in the world. And that's what we were all put here to do, is make a difference.
To make a difference and you are worthy. Right. And I just remembered, right? I was trying to remember the lessons we learned
Yes.
from. So yeah, I finally did remember. You said get comfortable with failure. Right. Get
Yes.
comfortable with it. And eventually you get a hand of it and you do well. Right. So just get comfortable with the whole idea of failure. So yes,
Yeah.
thank you, Pamela. I would say this has been deeply insightful. I've learned a lot personally, and I believe my listeners will do the same as well. And before you go, where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is just to go to my website, pamelacass.com. Everything's in there. My cell phone number is at the top of my website. So if you want to reach out to me, please do. If you want to book a call, a free call with me, there's a way that you can do that. I have a 2-day free event that my business partner and I are doing the weekend of the 27th and 28th. It's completely free, and we bring in 4 speakers virtually that have been guests on our podcast. So there's a registration in there for that if you want to join us for that. You can learn how to bring me in to speak, We've got a link to purchase the book if you'd like to do that. And our new book just came out last week called Meaningful Success. And that is Natalie's story about navigating success. And so I think that would resonate with the listeners as well. So you can find everything on my website. So yeah,
All right. And I'll put the links in the show notes so it's easily accessible for listeners. Right. And to my listeners, I would say thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need it. And also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Pamela, and do have a beautiful day ahead of you.
thank you. You as well.